swear I do not believe it. And they are back on terms.
Hello again, welcome to New York Talk. We have the Scouting Report back for you this week as we are going to look ahead to Tuesday night's away rearrange game away at Lincoln City. Hopefully we can bounce back after last weekend, but we will not going to talk about that Fleetwood game. We've talked that to death. We have Mick and Danny with us as per usual for these episodes. Thank you for joining us, boys.
Oh, you're very welcome.
No worries at all.
And we have Ben Ward joining us from the Sisters blog. Is that right?
Sisters podcast, yeah.
Podcast, apologies, yeah. Thank you for joining us, Ben.
No worries, man. Hope all's well.
Yourself, thank you. So the point of this is, everyone who's new to this, is we're going to talk to Ben about Lincoln, what we can expect, how's their season gone, and the danger men for everybody that's going on Tuesday night. So let's go back a little bit, Ben. We're still at the start of the season, so we can still talk about last season. Mm-hmm. It was a very, very, very good season. I know it ended in a little bit of heartbreak, but that was, from the outside, looked like a really, really good season for Lincoln.
Absolutely, yeah. It was. To be honest with you, it's just been a crazy ride for the past few years. Obviously, everyone knows about the past, the history, and the past sort of 4 years before that. But I think last season, there was a quiet confidence in a lot of Lincoln fans, sort of knowing Michael Appleton's history, particularly with Oxford, bringing young players in, selling them on, and producing a good football inside. But I think even the most optimistic of fans would have been laughing at you if you'd have told us that it would have ended in a Wembley final. I personally wasn't too gutted about everything because, to get to where we did was just phenomenal. Blackpool with the better side on the day. It stung a little bit, but it was one of those where you can look back on it, like you say, and cracking season overall. I think the thing that we're all hoping that is that, in 5 or 6 years, we're not looking back on it and saying, was that the chance that we had to go up? Particularly, with what we've seen in League One at the start of the season this year.
Yeah, it's happened a few times. I think Lincoln's a bit different, but Shrewsbury, Leyton Orient, they've come all so close and fell at that final hurdle, as we know. How was the squad? You talk about Brian Michael bringing young players through. Have you kept most of the squad? I know you lost Grant to Peterborough. Were there any other big losses?
So we lost Grant to Peterborough in the close season. We lost Zach Elbazedi. He was a player that sort of was on the fringes. He did really well for us in the Papa Johns. He went off to play in Sweden, I think, in their top flight, which came out of nowhere. Nobody really saw that. And then there was a couple of other players, like James Jones went to Wrexham, and that was, I think it was a surprise to a few people that he'd leave. Not necessarily a surprise that he'd leave the club, but a surprise of where he went. Obviously, they're spending fairly big money to get out of where they are. And then really, we didn't lose anybody until I think the day before the transfer deadline day. Teo Eden, who has been one of the breakout stars for the past couple of years, he was sold to Blackburn. Rumours of around £500,000 fee, but obviously, we live in the era of undisclosed transfer fees now. So he went over to Blackburn, and we signed Jamie Robson from Dundee United. So that was kind of the cover there. Obviously, very different players, but I think on the whole, we've managed to keep the core of what was a really successful side last season.
What is Lincoln? I mean, we know we talk about other clubs about their management structure, not above management, so their ownership structure. Mm-hmm. We know where Lincoln have come from non-league. So from the outset, it looks like you must have a good ownership base, who are progressive and things like that. Would that be accurate? Do you think? I'm not just saying this because I've got an imp tattoo on my arm, but genuinely think that we've got the best chairman in the EFL and the best board, the best sort of backroom staff in the EFL. Clive Nates is just a phenomenal chairman. He puts the fans first when he thinks about stuff. And obviously with him being based in South Africa, he's not been able to get over for a while. But we've got the CEO, Liam Scully. He's very honest and open with fans. We actually had him on the podcast last week. He came on, he approached us and said, can I,
can we do something and have a chat? And yeah, we had him for an hour and a half. He asked us, he said nothing's off the table, so we asked for questions from fans. Fans put the questions to him, and it was there was a couple that I think would have made a few chairmen and a few CEOs squirm, but he actually came out and gave a really good account of himself and was really honest with us. So yeah, in terms of operating staff, backroom staff, I cannot fault what is going on at the club at the minute. Everything seems to be putting the club first, and that's another thing there where they've said we're not going to be a massive spending club. We're not going to go above our means because it could potentially jeopardize the future of the club, and we don't want to do that. We want to make sure that we're able to grow naturally. And if we do, if we have to buy a player and their agent's saying, well, he wants, 10 grand a week, then we're going to have to say no, because although it'd be a great addition to the club, it could bankrupt us and put us in jeopardy. Just fantastic stuff, really.
It's always nice to see that in modern football, a proper fan base orientated chairman. I mean, it's become a bit of a rarity these days with all the money men and all that. But from the way you've described it, Ben, it almost sounds like it's a fan-owned club. That whole community vibe around it, but you've got the ownership structure that you've got, and it just sounds like a really good setup over there. Yeah,
I mean, there's we did have a while sort of back in the early 2000s when it was looking like it was going down the route of becoming a fan-owned club. Obviously, we nearly went bankrupt in the wake of the ITV digital collapse and all that stuff. But they've. Like Clive came in a few years ago as a director, and then the chairman stepped down. Clive took over, and like I said, we've had him on the podcast a couple of times as well. And he's just been, if they can't give you an answer for something, there'll be a genuine reason behind it, not because they're trying to cover their own backsides. And I think the transparency in the club is just great, and even down to like the financials. I don't know if you guys are aware of the Price of Football podcast and Kieran Maguire. Every time the financials come out from Lincoln, he just says, "Yep, they're continuing to set the gold standard." Like there's nothing that's hidden in there. It's kind of all on the table, and it's it like I say, it is really refreshing to see, and I'm just proud it's a Sincil Bank, to be honest.
Yeah. Well, we all know all too well about owners that don't have best interest at heart might be the wrong phrase, but where it's been mismanaged. Let's put it that way. That's the kind of way I can put it in the past. We've had that a couple of times, unfortunately. Let's move it on to this season. A mixed start to the season. Going into pre-season, having lost the playoff final, what was the expectation? Was it build on that and push for playoffs again? Was it hope for that but expect a bit less? What was the pre-season thoughts?
I think there was a lot of fans that wanted to push on and do the same again. Then we saw the amounts of money that were being thrown around in League One. I think a few people kind of went, might have to adjust that, lads. I mean, obviously we're not privy to all the ins and outs, but the alleged sums, shall we say, of going on wages and player transfers was just ridiculous. So I think there's a few fans that have still got that hope that we'll push on. There's obviously a few outspoken fans, shall we say, that are going to say that if we finish below where we did last season, it's a failure. But for me, 10th or above is a realistic target for us. I know Michael Appleton said recently that there's something like 12 clubs that are overspending to try and get out of the league. And I think if we can fight the way that we have done last season and get in somewhere around the top 10, I think that'll be, in some respects, it'll be a better result than finishing the playoffs last season.
Yeah, it is a crazy league this year. It's we've been in this league a lot and we've talked about it. There's probably 12 to 14 teams expect him in the playoffs or in and around the playoffs this season, and then you always get a surprise package at some point. So it's just shaping up already. It's already close. It could be fun. Let's hope it's
going to be tight.
That's one way of putting it. Yeah.
A couple of comments. If anybody's watching and wants to get involved, you can always send us a question. If you want to ask us or any questions, just get them on there. Dave's Covens wishes that we could get our chairman, and we would. That'd be great. I think it's amazing that they've come on your podcast. I think Great. They've reached out to you. I think that's fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, it was a weird one because like it was sort of in lieu of a fans forum, because obviously fans forums at the minute are a little bit touch and go because of the global situation, or for want of a better phrase. But like, yeah, they've been great with us, and they just sort of approached us and said, "Look, we're thinking about doing this instead of a fans forum. Would you be up for it?" And sort of dropped everything and jumped on, really.
Yes, you would.
Yeah.
Michael Appleton. Talk about him a little bit. I understand from his pre-season, but the important part, he had some health issues where he missed a few games. I should have looked this up before we started, so apologies for asking you. But what's the situation with there?
That's all right. So I think I can't remember if it was bang on pre-season or just at the start. I think it might have just been towards the start of the season. Was diagnosed with testicular cancer. Had growth removed, and had surgery. I don't really know the ins and outs of that, but had the surgery. The surgery was a success, and he's back in the dugout now. So it sounds like everything from that point of view is quite, he's doing well. It's it's one of those issues that people don't really want to talk about all that much, but I think the club handled it in a way that was respectful to him and sort of said, look, this is what's happening. We're not going to go mad. We're not going to, give you daily updates on stuff, but we'll let you know when everything's all right. He's sort of come back from it, and he seems like he's back to being Michael now.
That's fantastic news. That's the most important part.
Yeah,
his management style, I'm interested to watch his career from afar, but he's dipped in and out of first team management. He's dipped in and then dipped back into sort of backroom staff, and then now he's at your place. How was it? And he followed obviously Cowley's. It was a big act to follow. How I know your success last season. How was his time so far? I assume it was quite a big success. Yeah,
I think that obviously you say following Danny and Nicky Cowley at Lincoln is almost an impossible task. They took us from non-league to League One in 3 seasons, and it's like, okay, we've got to find somebody that can take this, take the club further. I think he had a bit of a rocky start, but that was primarily because it was a team that it was a squad that he'd inherited. When he started building his own squad, you suddenly saw what he was trying to do. And the thing is, like, he will continually look to bring in younger players and develop them, and then either like take them to a level that he's comfortable, that they're comfortable with, with Lincoln, or let them move on in their career if they feel that they're progressing quicker than the club. So I think that's been proven with Teo Eden, for example. Like, he came in from Fulham. I think he came in on a free, but there was a sell-on clause in the contract. So, came in, played a season and a half, and we sold him for $500,000 allegedly. And I think that seems to be the ongoing way that he will, bring in players to the club. And that is now what we've called the new model at the club. So, bring in a player, develop them, get to the point where they're comfortable, and either progress with Lincoln or get a move to a bigger club down the line. But in terms of his management style and his, the way that he's got us playing, I don't think I've seen better football played at Lincoln in all my life. I mean, I've been going since I was 4 or 5 years old. And the football is just phenomenal. Like, I mean, you can see it, and I know it's an extreme example because of, the way that we managed to win on Saturday. But if you look at some of the goals, just ridiculous goals. Lovely football being played, and it's just quite exciting to go down there on a Saturday now.
It sounds really good. This question I'm interested in, on where we're looking, we've got Paul Warner, who is Robson through and through. So from our manager point of view, we're pretty happy and safe. The MK Dons situation with Russell Martin leaving for the season has made me think this about every single manager. He's a young manager, but he doesn't strike me as a type of person who is ambitious beyond. If he gets an offer, he's not going to jump ship straight away. He seems settled. He seems happy. He's got a project. Is that a fair reflection as well?
I think so. Yeah, I think that was just going back to like Danny and Nicky Cowley, for example. They became Lincoln through and through, and I think they were the way that they wanted to be was. I think their ambition was, outstretching the club very quickly. And I mean, it's no secret that we spent a little bit to get out of League Two in the January window, so that put a little bit of strain on stuff, but it paid off because we managed to get promotion. Then when it came to being in League One, I think the budget being cut as much as it was, I think probably didn't push them as such, but I think there was potentially a conversation behind the scenes where they said, look, this is what we want to stay at the club, not for us, but for the playing budget. Can you give us it? And they were told no. So they said, right, okay, well, we've had an offer elsewhere, so we're going to go. And you can't blame them at that point because, again, that's their ambition. But I think Michael's ambition is that he wants to take the club as far as it can go. Not to plug the podcast too much, but we actually had his first public appearance was on the podcast in front of an audience that we did, and he came on and he said, look, it was the quote for the podcast. It was perfect. He just went, within 3 years, I want us to be a championship club. Before I leave this club, you will be a championship club. And it was like, okay, right. That's the headline. So now let's delve into it. But yeah, honestly, I think he's got his head screwed on. There was a lot of speculation about him leaving in the summer. Then he came out and said, no, sod you, I'm signing a new 3-year contract extension. I was like, okay, fine. Right. We'll take that. That's not a problem. But yeah, he's an honest bloke. He will not shy away from anything. He won't shy away from anything that you ask him, and he also won't shy away if somebody gets in his face, as Steve Evans found out last season.
Steve Evans,
I don't believe that.
I know, yeah.
Steve Evans doing that now. Sure.
You're making
really
that
odd,
up. You're making that up. That didn't happen.
I believe the phrase he used was, don't worry, I've put Steve back in his box.
Brilliant.
Hell of a box, that.
On to this season. It's been a mixed bag of a start, but looking at your results, the games you have lost are to teams that were good, expected to be up there. Bolton at home, Wickham away is always going to be a tough place to go. You've lost there, and then Oxford away, before we started recording. They're already tough games, so although you don't want to lose them, it's not the end of the world losing those sort of games, I suppose, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I think the problem as well was that, with the extended season we had last year, we had a bit of a shortened pre-season as well. So kind of bringing players in, some of them maybe weren't settled. I know that one of the lads that we brought in was playing injured, so he was sort of putting himself before the team, or putting the team before himself. Sorry, he was playing. He wasn't fully fit. A lot of fans were getting on his back about it, but he wasn't playing to his best. But there was obviously a reason for that, and I think having that shortened break it did us some damage. We I think for one game hardly had any. I think we were able to field 13 fit senior players. So when you're down to your bare bones, you've got to really pick and choose. And it's a difficult one because you don't want to lean on it and say, well, injuries have hurt us, because it seems like a bit of a cop out. But at the same time, injuries have hurt us. And we had to. I know it's the same for a lot of clubs, but basically it's been Saturday, Tuesday for the first 4 weeks of the season, and then Man United came in and said, right, we want you to play one of your Papa John's Trophy games on a night that isn't a Papa John's night. So it was a night that we should have had off. Yeah. And they came in and just went, right, you want to play that game then? And we went, well, not really. They said, well, the league are going to decide it, and the league told us we had to play it. And two people came out of that game with injuries, and to add to the already problematic situation that we've got, you then get another 2 people injured. You're like, well, that's knackered that one up. And that was I think that was the Tuesday before the Oxford game, and we actually went to Oxford, and the starting 11 didn't have a recognised striker in there because of the injury situation that we had. And it's like, well, if we'd not played the United game, would that have been different? But I honestly think that the break that we've had because of the postponement of this game, I think it's actually done us the world of good. And I think when you consider that the start of the season it's very similar to like the sort of third quarter of last season. We had a really big injury crisis towards the end of last season. Managed to pick it up at the end and end up in the playoffs. But, you know, I think there was a point where we'd lost, I think, two central defenders. We'd lost like 3 midfielders. We'd lost just one of the strikers to injury. If we'd have had a fully fit team last year, I don't think we would have needed the playoffs, if I'm honest. But ultimately, it cost us, and it seems like we might have gone through our injury crisis early. I'm touching all the wood I can find at the minute to hope that that's the case. But I think it's been a difficult start. No one's going to sort of shy away from that. But we've definitely had 1 or 2 shining examples of players that are doing all right for us.
Well, yeah, you mentioned that. We'll talk about the most recent game, the 5-1 on at the weekend. One of the big results in League, lots of goals in League One at the weekend. That's one of the biggies. Cambridge are not expected to be anything special, to be anybody 5-1 in this such a competitive league. To be anybody 5-1 away from home is an incredible result. And you talked before we started recording that there was a fantastic football being played. Was it a 5-1 game?
I think it was probably an 8-1 game, if I'm honest with you. There would have been no complaints from any Cambridge fans if that finished 8-1. Their keeper made some really good saves, and I think much like a few of the other games, which I didn't actually mention, but I think a few of the games that you spoke about there, like the Bolton game, and a couple of the other games that we've lost this season, the goals that we've given away haven't been from necessarily the opposition being better, and that sounds really arrogant, and I don't want it to. But they've not necessarily come from being outplayed, but it's come from sloppy mistakes. Like there'll be a misplaced pass that will then go and get picked up by their midfield or the striker or whatever. And that's seemingly been the case for a lot of the goals that we've conceded this season. So I think if they can tighten that up, we'll be a better side for it. But going back to Saturday, I mean, when you go 1-0 up after 24 seconds, it's going to be a good day. Some really, really lovely football. They didn't look like they had any fear in them at all. Cambridge just looked shell-shocked, to be honest. It really did. It really was a special game to watch. It was one of those days when you kind of think, right, that's going to be one for the memories of them.
Hopefully, then, from our point of view, the same will happen to Lincoln as happened to us, because we were having this very same conversation after last Tuesday. How well we'd played. We absolutely annihilated Doncaster. I accepted the pizza trophy, so it's not exactly important, but the way that we played, we were singing the praises, weren't we, lads? It was really excellent. And it wasn't necessarily because Donny were that bad. Because they're not that bad aside. No, come on. Give them a break. The neighbours are the nice neighbours, aren't they? What I mean? The neighbours that you'd invite around, for a drink or whatever. They're not like the other neighbours at the other side.
Mick, don't getting clipped again.
But yeah, and then obviously all of a sudden along comes Saturday, and we have the rug pulled from under our feet. So it's a bit like that, this league, isn't it? One day you'll play so well, and then the next day you wonder where they've all gone.
Well, I think I saw someone say the other day that it was Cambridge beat Bolton, Bolton beat Lincoln, Lincoln beat Cambridge.
Yeah.
So when you look at it like that, it's just a crazy league. I mean, it was mad last season, but this season just seems to be. Heaven forbid anyone that's sticking an accumulator on at the weekend.
To go from League One.
Yeah, avoid League One,
How do Lincoln set up? So our formation has been a hot topic of our fans. So what is Lincoln's formation? Is it standard 4-4-2? Is there a bit more to it?
So you've kind of got back four, then sort of two central midfielders, and then you've got one that's more of the holding player, and then you've got two wingers and a lone striker. So it's kind of a 4-3-2-1, 4-1-2. I don't know, whatever it is on FIFA. I don't care. But yeah, it's not a traditional 4-4-2 by any means. The back four, some of the some criticism has been thrown at them this season. Joe Walsh is probably our first choice centre back, but he's basically got a back made of glass at this point, so he's injured more often than not. Then we've got Jamie Robson's come in at left back, who we signed from Dundee United. He had his debut on Saturday, and he actually played really well. Different kind of player to Eden, who we've lost, but I think he's going to slot in really well. Central defence, you've got Lewis Montsma, who was a goal machine towards the start of last season. I think there was quite a lot of Lincoln fans made a lot of money sticking up 20 quid on him at the weekend to get the first goal, because he was just knocking him in all over the place. And then we've just signed TJ Aoma, who came back to us from Spurs. And I never thought I'd see the day when Lincoln sign a player on a permanent deal from Tottenham Hotspur. It's crazy. But that was, he's come back. Right back, we've got Reagan Paul from MK Dons last season. And then, like the midfield, Liam Bridcut is the linchpin of the side. Captain, first name on the team sheet. He's just, you can see his experience when he walks out. He's just absolute professional. Knows how to spray a pass out or just calm it down. And I think with having such a young side, I think we're the youngest squad in the year last season. Youngest squad in the league last season. Having such a young side, having someone like Bridcut in the middle is just key. He's just amazing player. And then the rest of the midfield, I mean, I think we've now got something like 5 or 6 what you'd consider first choice central midfielders. So it's a nice problem to have, but we never know who's going to play. But I think that most people are probably going to say Ted Bishop, who we signed from Ipswich over the close season. Different class. He's when he's played for us, he's just been phenomenal. It's just keeping him fit is going to be the problem. And then we've got Conor Mcgrandles, who is also he was exceptional for us last year, and you then sort of move up towards the final third. A lot of people said over the transfer window that we desperately needed a striker. I was like, well, of course we need, of course that's the case. It's Lincoln City, it's the transfer window. We need a striker. I think I said that the 3 things that you're guaranteed in life is that the Pope's going to wear a hat, the sun's going to come up in the morning, and Lincoln are going to need a striker on deadline day. But ultimately, that it didn't come off. Apparently there was a deal in place. There was a player at our training ground ready to sign all the paperwork, and then the parent club pulled out the deal.
Typical deadline day.
Yeah. Good morning to everybody apart from Swansea City. After we played Tom Hopper up there as a 9, but I think sometimes he might struggle because he's not the kind of striker that thrives being a number 9 on his own. He's a great player, obviously he's got the pedigree of coming from Leicester way back when, and he's a really, really solid player, but I think he needs somebody to play off, and I think the wingers that we've got are now probably the right kind of players to back that up, because I mean, if you want to talk about a danger man, you can't really talk about anybody other than Anthony Scully at the minute. I mean, he's top of the league for goal involvements in Europe, apparently. Wow. So the other day, he's got 8 goals in 9 games, and then he was involved in every single game, every single goal on Saturday, whether it's scoring it or assisting it. He's just on fire. So please don't hurt him.
Yeah, we're not bullies. Everybody seems to call us bullies. We're not actually.
Apparently, we're big physical bullies, aren't we? According to.
We used to get that label all the time, don't we?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, we're well past that. Well past worrying about that.
Oh yeah, it's very good. I'm looking forward to it. Match day, all the match day vlogs. Let's go through some score predictions. We went through ours yesterday on podcast. Ben,
no, we didn't.
Did we not?
No, we didn't.
We'll go through ours.
We're too depressed. Skip well over that one.
Okay. Ben, we'll start with you. What's your score prediction for tomorrow? I think it's going to be a good game.
You're putting me on the spot here, lads. Come on. I'm outnumbered massively. This isn't fair. No, I think if we can pick up from where we left off on Saturday, I think the confidence is going to be high. I think it probably could be a 2-1 to Lincoln.
Yeah, I'm not massively confident, but that's just because of our Saturday. I'm going to go positive and say we're going to draw. First draw of the season for us. I'm going to 1-1. It's going to be very, very tough. Danny, you'll be there. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm going to say the same. I'm going to say 1-1. I think it's one of them things where both teams were really up for it, like Lincoln carrying the momentum from the Cambridge game, and we're trying to get a positive reaction after what can only be described as a bit of a humiliation by Fleetwood.
A lesson.
So I'm going to say 1-1, but I think if one team was to win it, it would be by a single goal. There's going to be no open gate, shall we say, for one team. It's going to be a single goal, probably nothing spectacular, just to get it in and then, right, we'll have that, and then probably sit back on it, potentially.
But Mick?
I'm not going to answer because I'm too depressed after Saturday. I said on our podcast that I felt that Paul were going to get a reaction out of the players after Saturday's performance. I think they're all very much, or will be all very much aware that they all 1-11 underperformed. I think he will make some changes. I'm going to be positive. I think we're going to get something out of the game. And I'd like to think that we might just nick it 1-0. But it's going to be a tough game. I think probably looking at the games that we've played so far this season, this one's going to be the biggest test for us so far. It always is when we go to Lincoln. It's always a great day out. It's always a fantastic away game to go to. And when we're in the same division, to be honest, it's one of those that you look forward to. And it's one of the first ones after Wendy's. It's one of the first ones you look to because it's such a good away game. Because we know it's always going to be a tough effort. So, but no, I think we're going to do it. I think I'd like to think. I'll be positive. Makes a change, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does make a change actually.
I'll say, Mick, if you're still feeling a bit sad from the Fleetwood game, you can have a special drink from my big flask.
Mate, that's not a hip flask. That's a prosthetic leg.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
You can wear it as a helmet if you want to.
But it's interesting you say about looking to Lincoln as the game and probably being the biggest test. When Bolton came and when Bolton nicked that game, I genuinely thought they'd won the league the way they celebrated, and it's a bit of a compliment for somebody that a few years back was watching non-league football. You're now saying that it's probably one of the biggest tests. It's like, well, okay, it means that we're doing something right.
I like you've explained what you're doing right already. Earlier on in the podcast, as a club, it's clearly been run properly, and the way that football clubs should be run. The vast majority of us as Rotherham United supporters are really happy with the way that our club's being run because it's been run on the same basis. Bringing players for cheap or nothing, develop them and sell them on, and work within a budget. And a very, very strict budget at that, and a strict wage structure. It's the only way your club's going to survive. And from a sort of cynical football fan's point of view, looking at these clubs like Ipswich and Sunderland and Wigan and all these clubs spending all this money, and Sheffield Wednesday as well, it only ever ends in one way, doesn't it? I mean, the fact that Sunderland are doing it again, despite the fact that they find themselves in League One because of doing the very same thing. I just find it really bizarre, but it benefits the rest of us ultimately.
I mean, I think that the key thing to take away from it, from my point of view as a Lincoln fan, is that Michael Appleton managed to get to the playoff final last season, and his wage budget was 40% smaller than the previous season, and we finished 16th. So to me, it goes to show that it's not all about the money that you're spending. It's about the personnel you've got in the club and how it's being run.
Yeah, absolutely.
100%. For one final question from Mick and Danny, and I want one-word answers. Joseph asked about Ben Wiles. Is Ben Wiles starting tomorrow? Mick, yes or no?
Yes.
Danny?
Yes.
I'm going to go no.
Listen, I'm not saying in place of Barlaser. I think he will start. I don't think Warney will drop him.
Fair enough.
Yeah, same.
So if anybody's you're watching, please subscribe on our YouTube channel. We appreciate you all watching and getting involved in these videos. I really enjoyed doing these scouting reports so far this season. They've been a really good laugh, so please subscribe and like the video if you haven't already. Ben, like I say, it's been a pleasure. I've love having people like you on the show to talk about the people working. For me, it's I don't know if anybody else enjoys them. I find it fascinating learning about other clubs. So I really appreciate doing this video.
It's all right, man. Thanks for having me on. It's been a pleasure, and I wouldn't be doing my job if you're interested in Lincoln City. Which why would you be watching this? Get subscribed to the Stacey West podcast.
Absolutely. Mick, Danny, it's been a pleasure.
Really? You say that every time, don't you? You know what I mean?
I'll find something else to say soon.
Yeah. See you, Mick.
I'm just happy I've been able to get my big flask into it. That's an achievement for me.
I'll see you guys on Thursday night to record this show. So thank you very much. And everybody else, thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.
Credits on one-on-one. The credit turning shoot container shot. Unbelievable! Apologies to the neighbours.